Well, I'd like to say good evening to everyone. We're going to enter into a positive study called The New Earth. This will be part one. I don't know, maybe there'll be two. There'll be definitely two parts, maybe three parts to this. One of the things that I did is I cut it down to cut down the redundancy, and we made it shorter sessions so that everyone will be able to follow it without getting, without it being tedious. But this is good information. It's the information that's within this study that we're going to be doing for the next few weeks is the reason why that I can go into a tribulation period now. Because we have to go through it to get to this. And here, everything is perfect. It's where you wish you could be. It's where you want to live. It's what you want the earth to be like. And it's never been like this except maybe in the garden. That's the only place it was ever like this. And so the difference even between this new earth and the garden was Satan was in the garden. He's locked up for 1,000 years during this time. Now, one of the things that I want to address about this right now is the legalistic church where I came from, the one that converted me, because I was converted from a sinner to a church, is the way it went for me. Well, they just took everything in Revelation chapter 21 and 22 and said it was heaven. They had no idea. Okay? Now, what we're going to do is we're going to do matchups from Old Testament prophecy to New Testament prophecy, and we're going to show what the Old Testament said this is. Because those prophets said this was not heaven, but it's going to be the earth after Jesus comes. That's what they said it was. And so, yeah, if you're just looking at the New Testament prophets and that alone, I can understand why you can get confused. But there's more in the Old Testament about the new earth than there is the New Testament. And so what we're going to do over the next few studies and show what the Old Testament church prophets said, and we're going to match everything they said with what the New Testament church prophets said. And it gives you a whole new perspective on what this is about. Okay? Because what they did was they said the same thing, but they said it different. But by comparing the two, it takes away the misunderstanding. Okay? Now, this is the new earth of the Old Testament. It appears in Isaiah 65 and chapter 66. Chapter 66 of Isaiah is what we're going to be studying next time I speak. But it actually shows us the time, what it's like leading up to Jesus coming. And it's very clear that it is the time up to Jesus coming and the new earth comes after. It's very clear. So we'll be focusing upon that issue or that part of it next time I speak. This time, we're just going to show you what he's focused upon Israel, what he's saying about Israel coming into the new earth, while chapter 66 is more focused upon the wicked coming into the new earth. Okay? So there's a big difference there. But it's showing you two perspectives. Now this is what he says beginning in verse 9. And I will bring forth a seed out of Jacob. So he's concerned with Israel. We're all familiar with Romans chapter 11. Many churches are blind to it. They don't even want to look at it. But Romans chapter 11 says a deliverer will come out of Zion. And that's quoted from Isaiah 59, I believe, where it says the Redeemer. There's only one Redeemer, people. And he says the Redeemer will come out of Zion instead of the deliverer. And this is being very clear. He's a Redeemer and a deliverer, but he's called both because he's coming to do both. He's coming to redeem his own and to deliver us from the wicked. He's coming to do both, so that's the only reason for the change-up. Now, he says that he's going to graft Israel back in to the church in Romans chapter 11. There's a day for that to happen, and we'll hit upon a piece of that today. Now, he said he's going to bring forth a seed out of Jacob. There will be somebody from Jacob's lineage, from the children of Israel's lineage. He'll bring them out of Judah, and they'll be, as he says here, an inheritor of his mountains. So that promise that he made where they would inherit the land from river to river never happened. But it's going to happen, and that's why he gave it. And we're talking about the river of Egypt. See, the Nile, they're going to inherit the land from the river of Egypt to the Euphrates. All of that will be Israel's land. They never got it, but he promised they would, and it was because it was the future. And so what he says that he's going to bring them and they're going to inherit this land. And his servants are going to dwell there. No one else will be there but just his servants. Okay? And Sharon shall be a fold of flocks. Sharon is in the land of Israel. He's talking about a fold of flocks. And the valley of Achor, a place for herds to lie down, for my people that have sought me. So he's saying, basically there's a play on an ideal here that we're the sheep of God, we're the lambs, that this is going to be for his people. That land is going to be only for his people. Okay? Behold, my servants shall sing for joy of heart, but ye, speaking of those that rebelled against the Lord, and we see that rebellion really starting to take off in earnest right now, but ye shall cry for sorrow of heart, and shall howl for vexation of spirit. So there's really a great judgments coming upon the wicked, but he's saying my servants will be able to sing for joy of heart. And he says, ye, speaking to his enemies, shall leave your name for a curse unto my chosen, because he's talking about their destruction, their name being left for a curse. It means they're not going to be around. He says, for the Lord God shall slay thee and call his servants by a new name. So we've read about getting a new name in Revelation. When Jesus comes back, he'll give us a new name that no man knows but he who receives it. So he's showing us that he's connecting that to what the prophet said in Revelation. Now, verse 16, same chapter, that he who blesses himself in the earth, now this is what I want you to see, Revelation 21 and 22 is about the new earth. So is this. And he's being very clear that this new earth is in the earth. That's why we have it in red. It's in the earth. It's not in heaven. The new earth is in the earth. And so he says that he who blesses himself in the earth shall bless himself in the God of truth, and he that sweareth in the earth shall swear by the God of truth, because the former troubles are forgotten, and because they are hid from my eyes. And so we're saying whatever was going on the earth before Jesus comes, it's forgotten, and it's hidden from his eyes, he says. And he says, for behold, I create the new heavens and the new earth. Now the reason why this is important, he's not saying he's going to recreate where he lives. The new heavens is our atmosphere. If you're a student of the Bible, you can see that in the book of Genesis, the world before Noah was different. It was tropical, a place more suitable for dinosaurs. It talked about how there was a firmament, a great vapor, water vapor around the earth that made it kind of like a greenhouse, kind of like a tropical area for all kinds of things to grow. The weather was perfect, and the environment was perfect, and the ground was watered different. There was no rain, and that's why they thought Noah was crazy, because it never rained. And so what happened was there was a heavy dew that was brought in from the sea, and it watered the whole earth. And so he's saying that he's going to recreate the heavens, or our atmosphere, the kind of environment we live in, and he's going to make the earth new, is what he's saying. I create a new heavens and a new earth, and the former shall not be remembered nor come into mind. So you won't be that person that says, man, I remember whenever we was back there, we could go to Dairy Queen. That's not what you're going to be thinking. Things are going to be better than you could ever imagine. And you're not going to wish for nothing that you used to know or want or desire. You're not going to wish for none of that. As a matter of fact, he says it won't even come into mind. But he says, be ye glad and rejoice forever in that which I create. For behold, I create Jerusalem, a rejoicing, and her people a joy. So he's even talking about remaking the city a rejoicing city, a people of joy in that city. And he says, I will rejoice in Jerusalem. The Lord will be there. I will rejoice in Jerusalem and joy in my people. And the voice of weeping shall no more be heard in her, nor the voice of crying. Happy place, nobody got nothing to cry about. Okay? Now, the new earth of the Old Testament, we'll continue to look. One of the things he says about this new earth in verse 20, he says, no longer will there be an infant who lives only but a few days. All these sad deaths of these babies dying, cancer and all that, no more. He says it's not going to happen in the new earth. Won't be no more baby deaths. Okay? Or there won't be an old man that does not live out his days. For the youth will die at the age of 100. And what he's saying, this is a sneaky way of saying that someone 100 years old will be considered a child. Okay? And he says, and one who does not reach the age of 100 will be thought to be accursed. So there's still free will in the new earth. Everything is being controlled by the Lord. What did he say he was going to do in the book of Revelation when he returned? Rule with a rod of iron. Okay, that's what's happening right here. If someone dies before they reach 100, they're going to think he must have rebelled against the Lord and was a sinner. See, that's what they'll think, because no one dies at 100. See, and so that's what he's saying about the new earth. The lifespans are going back to like they were in the days of Noah. The atmosphere, the world's going back before like it was in the days of Noah. So are the lifespans. Now, if we look at a more modern version, we got New American Standard here, we got the God Word version here. Same verse. It says, "There will no longer be an infant who lives for only a few days, or an old man who doesn't live a long life. Whoever lives to be 100 years old will be thought of as young. Whoever dies before he is 100 years old will be cursed as a sinner." So that's the way we were explaining it. See, the Lord will be ruling with a rod of iron. If you're not going to serve Him in the new earth, you're not going to make it. Ruling with a rod of iron, that's what that is. Now, if we look at the new earth, the Old Testament, again, we look at verse 21 through 23, same chapter, 24 I mean, and it says, "And they shall build houses and inhabit them." So look, no one expects to have to build a house in heaven or plant a vineyard in heaven. This is the earth. It's in the earth, like he said when we pointed a moment ago where it was in red. When you bless the God of truth in the earth, that's what he was talking about. They'll build houses and they're going to live in those houses, and they're going to plant vineyards and they're going to eat that fruit. And he says they're not going to build and someone take it away. That's what happens today when you can't make your mortgage. They take it away. Or if you live in a land where enemies run in, take everything, like like's happening over there in the east right now. Armies are coming in, running everybody out, leaving their homes. So another inhabits. He says that's not going to happen anymore. They're not going to build another inhabit, and they shall not plant and someone else come in and eat their fruit. "For as the days of a tree are the days of my people." Now you listen to him. He's saying my people are going to live as long as trees in this time. That's what he's saying. He wants you to understand that this is a place where people still die, but they live as long as trees. It is right here. Okay? They live as long as trees. "And my elect shall long enjoy the work of their hands." He wants you to know that his plan for you is to be around and see your children's, and enjoy all of your grandchildren and greats for a very long time. That's his plan. And whatever you plant, see, because the curse is going to be taken away. You're not going to have to go out there and hoe yourself to death to get a tomato. It's not going to be like that. It's going to be like the gardens used to be that Adam took care of. And what he's saying, you're going to long enjoy the work of your hands. That's his plan for you. So try to feel what I'm feeling. If we got to go through a very dark time to get there, let's get going. This is just too good to pass up. Okay? "They shall not labor in vain, nor bring forth for trouble. For they are the seed of the blessed of the Lord, because we're His children, and their offspring with them." That's what we're talking about, our children and our children's children. There's a great, big, great, good plan for us in this time. "And it shall come to pass that before they call, I will answer." He won't be like that where you're praying and you say, I wonder if He heard me, or I wonder if I'll get my petition. He's saying in this time, I'll answer before you call. This is a time when we draw very near to the Lord. And while they're yet speaking, I will hear. He's trying to describe even the relationship in this time. Now, in verse 25, look what he says. Same chapter. "The wolf and the lamb shall feed together. The lion shall eat straw like a bullock." And look at all the people saying prophecies all past. If that was true, you'd be seeing a lion eating straw. This time has never happened. "The wolf will lay down with the lamb. They'll feed together with lambs. The lion's going to eat straw like a bullock, and dust shall be the serpent's meat. They shall not hurt nor destroy in all my holy mountain, saith the Lord." So this is evidence that the new earth and millennial time are the same age. And we'll look at this next. Okay? The new earth and millennial time are being the same age. If we look at Isaiah chapter 11, most people recognize that as a millennial time. Of course, there's a lot of Churches don't try to squash all that, refuse to look at it. But I want you to see, if we compare what we just read in 65:25, the wolf and the lamb shall feed together, and the lion shall eat straw like a bullock, and the dust shall be the serpent's meat. They shall not hurt nor destroy in all my holy mountain, saith the Lord. Look what he says in Isaiah 11:6. The wolf also shall dwell with the lamb, and the leopard shall lie down with the kid. A kid is a small goat. And the calf and the young lion and the fatling together. So a calf and a lion lying down together, and a little child shall lead them. We're talking about a place where a little child can lead a grown lion. That's what we're talking about. And the cow and the bear shall feed, and their young ones shall lie down together. Cows and bears lying down together. Okay? And the lion shall eat straw like an ox. Same thing he said over here. The lion eating straw like an ox, like a bullock. Okay? It's the same time. A comparison proves it's the same event. Okay? Now, there's a few things I want to show you about this. Some of the context that we saw in Isaiah 11 and what some of the things that Jesus said. Okay? When we look at Isaiah 11 verse 4 through 9, this is the context that we just read from. We read this verse and this verse. Okay? He says, with the righteousness shall he judge. With righteousness shall he judge. That's Jesus. Jesus judging the poor and reprove, or to justify. That word reprove means justify. With equity, that means make fair decisions for the meek of the earth. What he's saying is the people that are his, when he returns, he's going to make fair decisions to as it's saying here, to justify or to reward them. That's what he's saying. He's going to reward them fairly, the meek of the earth. When Jesus came, his first sermon, he said that. The meek's going to inherit the earth. He's talking about the new earth. Blessed are the meek, because they're going to inherit the earth. So when we start looking at him talking about the new earth and what the wolves and lions and bears and leopards are going to be doing, he's saying that he's going to reward the meek of the earth with fair decisions. That's verse 4, as he talks about what's in the new earth. Now look what he says. He shall smite the earth with the rod of his mouth, and with the breath of his lips shall he slay the wicked. That's his second coming. That is his second coming. It's found right there in Revelation 19. So he's got Revelation 19 when he comes, and the meek inheriting the earth. It's all the same story. Okay? And so when we look at Revelation 19, it says he was clothed with a vesture dipped in blood, and his name is called the Word of God. And the armies which are in heaven followed him upon the white horses. That's when he comes in the clouds. They're all of his armies are all on horses. They're clothed in fine linen, white and clean. And out of the Lord's mouth goes a sharp two-edged sword. That's a spoken word that can destroy or bring fire or whatever he desires it to do. The Bible says he spoke the earth into existence. So out of his mouth goes a sharp sword, that with it he should smite the nations and rule them with a rod of iron. Okay? And he's treading the winepress. This is where his fierceness and the wrath of Almighty God is poured out when he comes with his whole army. Now look, that's what he said up here. He's going to reward the meek of the earth, verse 4. And he's also going to punish the wicked, verse 4. What follows is all these wolves, leopards, and lions laying down with things they used to eat, and a child leading them. That's what follows. This is a time to our future. Don't doubt it. And it's a time that you want to be here for, even if we got hard times to get there. Okay? Now, more changes. We're going to compare some more of what's in Isaiah 11, talking about the new earth. We saw this, how the wolf, the leopard, the lion, what they were going to be doing. Little child leading them. We also saw in verse 7 about the bear, how it would lie down together with the things it used to eat. And in verse 8, we haven't read that yet. He said, and the sucking child shall play on the hole of the ass. Now, ass is a poisonous snake. So we're talking about someone still on the bottle. Say, would play on the hole of an asp. And the weaned child should put his hand in the cockatrice's den. And so whatever he's doing, you're not going to have to worry about your child getting hurt. He's saying, in my new earth, your children will be safe out there no matter what they're doing. The things that used to get them hurt, he says no more. That even sticking his hand in a snake den is not going to hurt the child. He will not get hurt there. And so he says, and they shall not hurt nor destroy in all my holy mountain. For the earth shall be full of the knowledge of the Lord as the waters cover the sea. Now that's important because something else has changed. Everybody knows who the Lord is. Everybody. There's no one left here that doesn't know the Lord. Now look, when we go over here into Revelation, he talked about this first part and how it was different before Jesus came. When we look at what happened, he says, and I looked and behold a pale horse. And when this pale horse rode, we saw that power was given unto it over the fourth part of the earth to kill with the sword and with hunger and with the beast of the earth. Do you see that? He's saying that right up at the end of the age, the beasts of the earth are going to be eating people. They're going to be killing people. I saw all of that on Nat Geo Wild. I'm going to tell you something. Me and Cindy were following a series. There was a bunch of them. There was a list of them, like When Animals Attack, and there were some others. I don't remember all the names of them. But we saw a series where wolves were killing people, where leopards were killing people, where lions were killing people, and bears were killing people. They took all four of them. They took some other things too. Those big long lizards in Indonesia, they were killing people, eating children off their porch. Every one of those were killing people. We saw that series in Nat Geo Wild. He's saying they're going to be killing people, but when I come, it stops. They become vegetarians and gentle. A child shall lead them. Now, in Hebrews chapter 8, he talks about something very, very particular to Israel. He says, this is the covenant that I will make with them after those days, saith the Lord. I'll put my laws in their mind and write them in their hearts, and I will be to them a God that shall be to me a people. And look what he says. I never understood this till I started studying the new earth. They shall not teach every man his neighbor and every man his brother, saying, know the Lord anymore. They won't teach a man to know the Lord anymore. He says, for all shall know me from the least to the greatest. He's pointing to the new earth. He's saying there's a day coming, he's going to make a new covenant with Israel, and everybody's going to know me, and you won't even be out preaching the gospel anymore. It'll be a place for saved people. Saved people. You won't have nobody to preach to. In other words, I'm not saying there won't be church. We'll be gathering like we are, preaching to the saved, teaching the saved. But this gospel preaching, it'll be over. If someone don't serve the Lord, he's going to be ruling with a rod of iron. They're not going to make it. And so that's what we're looking at. Now let's look at the new earth of the New Testament. We're going to make a few comparisons on Revelation 21. He says in verse 1, Revelation 21, I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth were passed away, and there was no more sea. Something's changed. Something's changed in the earth. The earth is different now. Okay, I'm not saying there's not any sea anywhere, but there's probably something changed. The land masses may be together in the new earth. I don't know. It's just maybe a theory. And we know there is water because in Ezekiel 47, he talks about making the earth new, and he says they're out there fishing on the sea, casting their nets. So it's not like there's not any sea, but there may not be multiple seas. I don't know. Okay? And he says, and I, John, saw the holy city. He saw New Jerusalem coming down from God out of heaven, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. And that's one thing you need to pay attention to. New Jerusalem, when it comes down, it's the bride coming down. You need to know that. I believe that New Jerusalem is the departed church. That's why it's dressed as a bride. It's coming down here. Heaven's coming here. And so are some of the people that we miss for the great celebration, the marriage supper of the Lamb. So it's coming down. It's coming down as a bride adorned for her husband. Jesus is the bridegroom, see? And so the only bride he has is the bride in heaven and the bride on earth. That's it. That's the only bride he got. The departed saints and the living saints. And he says, I heard a great voice out of heaven saying, behold, the tabernacle of God is with men. He's saying, I'm coming here, and heaven's coming with me. That's what he's saying. My dwelling place now is with men. God's coming here. And you need to get the magnitude of the situation. Heaven wouldn't even be heaven without God and Jesus. When they come here, heaven's coming here. So I want you to grasp the enormity of what's happening in the earth. He comes, smites the earth with the rod of his mouth. The wicked are slain, but the righteous have something very great planned. And they shall be his people, and God himself shall be with them and be their God. Make no mistake or bones about it. This is what's going to happen. Okay? Now, verse 4. And God shall wipe away the tears from all their eyes. There shall be no more death. Now we know that to be premature death from the Old Testament. Neither shall there be no more crying, neither shall be any more pain, for the former things are passed away. He that sat upon the throne said, I make all things new. Guess what? That includes you. You're one of the things that gets made new. And he said unto me, write, for these things are true and faithful. You can count that I'm going to do this. Count on it. I'm going to do it. And he said unto me, it is done. I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. I will give unto him that is athirst of the fountain of water freely. Verse 7, he that overcometh shall inherit all things. You need to see that what he's going to do, this new heaven and new earth, is an inheritance. And he's going to be our God, and we're going to be his son. But the fearful and unbelieving, the abominable, that's all the people that rebelled against him, what they're doing right now. The murderers, the whoremongers, the sorcerers, the idolaters, and all liars are going to have their part in the lake which burneth with fire and brimstone, which is the second death. He's going to do cleanup. They're not going to be here, y'all. And there came unto me one of the seven angels that had the seven vials, full of the seven last plagues, and he talked with me, saying, come hither, and I will show you the bride, the Lamb's wife. So again, he's going to show the bride, the Lamb's wife, and what did he go show him? New Jerusalem. Okay? And he carried me away in the spirit with a great high mountain and showed me that great city, the holy Jerusalem, descending out of heaven from God, coming here. He saw it coming here. That's what he saw. Now let's do a quick comparison. I'm going to show you 4 more slides. Let's do a quick comparison of Isaiah 65 and Revelation 21. It says in 65:16 that he talked about that he who blesses himself in the earth, we showed that was this is going to be where it's going to take place, right here, shall be blessing himself in the God of truth, and he that sweareth in the earth shall swear by the God of truth, because the former troubles are forgotten, because they are hid from my eyes. And so we can look here. What we read in Revelation 21, the former things are passed away. He's saying the same exact thing in a different way. We look down here and we saw I create a new heavens and new earth. The former shall not be remembered or come into mind. And there it is again, in different words. I saw a new heaven and new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth were passed away, and there was no more sea. He's saying the same thing in different ways. So it becomes impossible that this is heaven when we make the comparison. In verse 9, we saw in 65:9, he says, I will bring forth the seed out of Jacob. There is a focus on Israel here. And out of Judah, the inheritor of his mountains, and his elect are going to inherit it. We saw in Revelation, over here, Revelation 21, verse 7, he that overcometh shall inherit all things, I'll be his God. It's still about the inheritance. He's just including people that are Gentiles as well, being inheritors. When we looked at verse 18, he says, be ye glad and rejoice forever in that which I create. For behold, I create Jerusalem rejoicing, and her people a joy. We saw in verse 2 that New Jerusalem was coming down from God out of heaven, prepared as a bride. So again, the New Jerusalem is part of the package. Like we saw there, he's saying the same thing, using different words. And finally down here, he says, I will rejoice in Jerusalem and joy in my people, and the voice of weeping shall not be heard in her any more, nor the voice of crying. And he says right there, and God shall wipe away all tears from their eyes. Saying the same thing, different words. It's the same exact prophecy, different words. When you do a matchup, it takes away all the garbage that you've been told. Okay? Verse 8, let's look at the next slide. In verse 20, we saw there would be no longer an infant who lives only a few days, or an old man who does not live a long life. And whoever lives to be 100 years old will be thought of as young. And whoever dies before he's 100 years old will be thought he was a cursed sinner. There'll be no more death. That's what he's talking about. No more premature death. If you are serving and living for God, you're going to live as long as trees. That's what he's trying to say. And if you're not, he's going to rule with a rod of iron. You're not going to make it. Okay? So we can see again that this matchup is here, that we got what this means is lifespans are extended, diseases are removed, death is still occurring among those living in sin, but he's ruling with a rod of iron. That's all I'm going to share with you on part 1. I'll turn it back over to the brother in charge. We'll look at part 2 next.